Okay, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and use Martin Kaymer again because of the big difference in the posture. Um, you know, you've probably been coached hard on improving your posture, but you probably overcooked it a little bit and gotten a little bit too upright. Um, Keimer is. It looks like he's really humped over because you're so upright. So there's a contrast there. Maybe find a happy medium somewhere in between. Um, it's easier to swing on a circle um, when your posture is a little bit closer to what we see with Martin Keimer. I mean, you can do it from where you're at for sure, but might be just a little bit upright. Let's just go through the same positions, and I like to use the line um, when I'm showing talking about swing plane and whatnot of the original shaft plane. It just gives you a starting point. Um, and you can kind of see what the club does in relation to that throughout the swing. So we'll stop Keimer. This was taken by a guy named John Doherty, who's down in my part of the world. He sat on 16 and number 4 at Augusta this past year. He just got some really good video. Um, you know, most of the players on the tour, you'll see what we call hands in, club head out. So that means that the club head is typically above plane and the hands are usually right on that line at P2. You can see Keimer's forearm is right parallel to it, and the club face it's not parallel or perpendicular to that original shaft plane. It's a little bit um, off. That's really what a lot of people would consider close, but to me that's a pretty good position right there. In your case, the hand position's good, but you've got a little bit of over rotation of the left forearm. If you look at the soft part of the inside of your left arm, you can see that it points almost behind you. Okay, and then if you look at Keimer's, points a little more in that direction. But you over rotate. I mean, you can't even see any of the back of the Velcro on his glove. If you look at yours is pointing way out there. There's three things that. First, I'll tell you what the power package is in golfing machine terms. That's the shoulder turn, the arms, and the hands, or the shoulders, arms, and the hands. And they essentially do four things, but three things that you really need to know about. One is the left wrist cocks the club or hinges it up and down vertically. The left forearm in the takeaway rotates internally, and the shoulders turn. And those three things happen, as far as I'm concerned, the easiest way is they happen at the same time and at the same rate. Once you get to P2, if that's happening, you'll be in a pretty good similar position to what we see with Keimer. He might could stand just a little bit more rotation of the left arm, but you've over rotated it. So, if I drew a circle right where your hands are, I'd like to see that club head and your hands right in that circle. And again, these are positions. They're not set in stone. You can play from just about anywhere, but you don't see too many of the good players with the club head that inside or under plane, and that just sets you up to lay the club off once you get to P3. So we'll clean this up a little bit. Let's draw our shaft plane again. Clean yours up a little. And then we'll just take it to P3. Okay. So you're in pretty good shape. Alright, now, obviously, your hands are a little deep. Okay. If you look at Keimer, his hands are still pretty much in front of his chest. So again, I'd like to see you somewhere in the middle there. Okay. Um, but he would be a good player for you to emulate because he does kind of the opposite of what you want to do, and that's what you want to do is when you're changing something, you want to go to that opposite extreme, and that would be pretty much where he's at. So, I'd like to see your hand somewhere if I drew a circle right in there somewhere. Okay. So you get to the top again, pretty good position. Okay, I'd like to see you get to about right there and just stop and go the other direction. Okay. You're closer to a one plane, I guess. And he is too, except your spine angle, you started so upright with your posture. Um, just like to see you bow just a little bit more. Both of you have great club face positions. And if you look at that, it's matching, pretty much matching his left arm. There's your left arm. There's the club face. Pretty good stuff right there. As far as the term slots go, if your hands kind of work right down just under that yellow line, you're in pretty good shape. But you keep lifting, and you lay the club off just a little bit. Not terrible. Again, tons of good lag, and you get it, save it nicely. You're really in a good position right there. So you can see right here, you do a better job of keeping your foot on the ground than it looked like from the front. And I mean, great impact. Love it. Love the impact position. Let's take a look at Kaymer's slide here. He drops that thing right down in there nicely. And notice how he just it's like his hips never really stop. Everything, and obviously that you want the hips, that's the first thing in the sequence that you like to see. Now I'm going to clean this up a little bit again. Okay, now notice how your elbow is on your hip and his is away. I like your position better. And he's a cutter of the ball, so he's a little steeper to the plane, and you're swinging inside square to inside, hitting a draw. So that's what you see. But you see right here, watch from about right here, your hips quit. See that? You're standing flat-footed. Those hips need to continue to turn. Alright, so I want to show you one thing here. I'm going to stop it at P6. I'm going to get both of you guys at P6. And this is a big thing. Nick was looking at your golf swing the other day, and this is a big thing with the stacking tilters. If you watch him, and it's a big thing, it's a common denominator amongst all the good players. Alright, look at this angle right here. He maintains that, and that's what we call the flying wedge. In fact, he's kept it even further. If you look here, you can still see the shaft. See both of his butt cheeks, so you know the hips have turned, heel off the ground just a little bit. He's still in that really good spine angle. And that's another common denominator that we see with the good players. Alright, so I'm going to basically take you to the same spot. Alright, now look at this. We can still see your hands and arms, but the club head is already vanished. Look how flat your right wrist is. We can start to see your left wrist bend. That should still be the opposite of that. The left wrist should still be fairly flat, and there should still be some angle left in your right wrist. So that's just a sign of your arms and hands just flashing, racing past your lower body. When that's happening, it's just really difficult to consistently square that club face. Okay. So right here, if your hips were still turning, everything would be working together. So, in my world, dynamically, I'd just like to see the hips not stall and just turn more, everything work together more. Okay. See how you still got, you can still see the club head and the shaft right there. Last thing, I'm going to go back. I'm just going to draw a line right here and just see how long you keep your spine angle and how much it moves during the swing. Most of the players will turn right around that. They'll see a few of them dip a little, a la Tiger. I'm not crazy about that, but look how long he stays down and keeps that spine angle. He doesn't really lose it. I mean, it's intact all the way pretty much to the finish. So you kind of drop down, make a little squat move. Do a good job of maintaining. I just like to see you start on this green line. Let's go back and just measure it. Let's see what in relation to the ground. And so Kaymer's got about 43 degrees. You're at 61. Okay. Now let's measure him. Let's measure you at impact. $51. His really doesn't change. A couple of degrees. So I think again the moral of the story is keep, statically, meaning you're not moving, is maybe work on your posture a little bit. I'd like to see you square the left foot up a little bit. Maybe that's something you guys are working on. So, I mean, it's not square it up, but square your stance altogether up. You're a little bit open, and then maybe a little bit more hip bend, and then just keep those hips, turning. One thing, I'm going to send you a link to a little instructional video this guy from Canada did. It talks about how the hips should move, and it makes a lot of sense. It's one of the best ones I've ever seen. So when you get these videos, just reply that you did get them, and let me know what you think, man. But keep up the good work.